Hey everyone, this is Kelly Thompson. You're listening to Dom of X.
What's going on, everybody? I am Dom of X, comicreleases.com associate editor, and back on the channel per the program, everything cool that you can think of is Eisner, award-winning again, creator Kelly Thompson, my friend. How are you doing? We're friends, right? We're
totally friends, Dom.
Yes, let's go.
Especially after this adorable little shark GIF you've made me. I love him. It's great. I'm totally enjoying looking at him. Also, I don't know how you did I don't know if everyone can see it, but the little volume indicator that I can see that's like pink and blue, it's very charming.
People, I think, gotta know whenever the main person behind the mic is speaking, and
you're not wrong. It's very smart. It's very smart. You got some skills, kid.
I try, but I'm happy to have you back. And
thanks for inviting me.
Of course, and I'm happy to. Oh my gosh, we have you're like one of the busiest people. I know that a run's about to end, and I hope we can get to that at some point today. But of course, the cute little fascination of a character we call our friend Jeff the Land Shark. You have been busy with a good amount of projects with this cute little fella over with the 5-issue series that you're doing with Tokito Koro and all of the Infinite Marvel stuff. Like he's everywhere. He's getting more emotes on Marvel Rivals now. I hear my brother upstairs in his room sometime talk about freaking Jeff and all that other doohickeys. Like, it's crazy.
Is he angry with Jeff or happy with Jeff? Because I hear a lot of both.
It's mixed depending on match.
And look, little Ken, what a cutie. Debuted Gurihiru design, that little Ken, for a little friend for Jeff. We did, I don't know if you saw it, but there was a Marvel, like a weekly that was coming out that was the thing that not the thing that debuted Jeff, but a thing that he showed up in that was Halloween themed.
Yes.
And it was great because, one of the conceits that was baked into it was that Jeff needs a couple's costume and like everyone's too busy.
Right.
And so then he goes to new friend Ken, who's like got nothing on his agenda. So it was very fun.
I love how in that specific Infinite special, Jeff and ended up going up to Kate. And he's just like begging, like, please, 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 as he's rolling over. Kate's just like, no, I'm sorry. Like, I got plans.
And then he throws a fit, as only Gurihiro can draw. They're so great. I just love them. Although I have to say, Tokito Koro did an incredible job. They brought a more sort of traditional manga feeling to some of it, like some of the emoting they wanted to do and the way they sort of approach a page and stuff, which sometimes was a challenge because I think with a character that doesn't speak, it can be hard, especially when I'm not as familiar with some of the really cool techniques they want to pull. Like I have to make sure that I'm recognizing those and rolling with it. And it was a really fun experience. And they were a joy to work with. They were incredibly fast, which is, underrated. I mean, not underrated by the people who know, but I think, for readers, books just sort of come out and you're like, great. I mean, like, if I have to see one more person going, Mattia Iulis should be on a book every month. Yeah, he can't be. Do you see the level of detail? He would be dead. The man would be dead if he tried to draw a book a month. It just doesn't work that way. So, so if you're a smart creator, I think, and a smart publisher, you try to find places where he can have maximum impact, like doing those 2 issues of Absolute Wonder Woman, or like a cool miniseries or something, or a creator owned that can take longer time. That works too. But a monthly book is hard for someone who's doing like basically borderline photorealistic. It looks like a movie in your hand. It just doesn't really fit. By the same token, they're just to take it back to Tokito Koro, they didn't have a lot of time. I was behind. This was sort of a last minute miniseries that Marvel wanted to do. I had to like sort of shove it into my calendar in a rough way. because I wanted to do it. And honestly, we would not have made it without Toki.
Mm.
She was so on it and really brought a ton of enthusiasm to it. It was really fun.
That's so delightful to hear because it feels like every single character showed up in the 5 issue series. Like we got Doctor Strange. Next thing you know, like oh, we're on
Yeah.
nowhere, and Rocket and Groot are popping up and smashing
Yeah.
bangers, right? So
Yeah, we did. That was one of the conceits of that of the miniseries was to sort of like let's sort of play with stuff that's a little bit like the Marvel rivals. Like that's why we've got the portal and the
mm-hmm.
shadow Jeffs that create that portal so that you can play with that a little bit. But we really wanted it to be like a tour of the Marvel universe, like Jeff going to see mostly his friends, but also some new people that we don't always get to see him play with. So it was a good time.
Yeah, I feel like this is the first time I've seen you extensively kind of use Rocket and Groot in that aspect because like
It is.
like you it's not that you haven't done cosmic stuff obviously with Rogue and Gambit, but it's just more so I don't really think of you as like oh like Guardians of the Galaxy writer Kelly Thompson. No,
No, they do sort of work for me because they are sort of one of the wackier teams, which I just did a podcast the other day talking about an Excalibur run that I like by Alan Davis that
Mhm.
is super wacky. So I do like some of that wacky stuff. But I do think that was it the first time I wrote both these characters? I might have written a little bit of Rocket before, but now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I hadn't written either of them. It definitely took a minute to get the Rocket speech a little bit right, but it was really fun.
I'm glad. Maybe this is in the works for a Jeff meets the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special in the gun formula. Just me pulling brains. But you
There
also
there is a new Jeff miniseries on the horizon for 2026. I don't know when it will be announced in detail. I'm not even sure. I soft pitched what it was, and I know Marvel really likes it, and I'd like to do it, but we might pivot to something else for a couple inside baseball reasons. We'll see. But I would expect at least a mini series. Hopefully, there will also be more digital stuff, but I would say at least a mini series this year.
okay. And one last thing on the Jeff, if you will. Uh, I'm actually going to bring it back to what Rick Remender did over at Marvel when he was doing Uncanny X-Force, Uncanny Avengers, Captain America. And he always had like even keel threads that he always picked up that he set down in stone in Uncanny X-Force. You pick up, oh, like here's a weird future again with Captain America, Uncanny Avengers. But yeah, that's kind of one of the things I think somebody has to do. Like if you don't technically own these books, right? Because they're not your own work. But what you can do is sort of say, hey, like I've written a lot of stuff, and if a project comes in the future, maybe I can pluck it along later. And me reading, I'm like, man, Elsa Bloodstone is in one of these books, and like she makes the reference over to Marvel 1000, and I'm like, wait, I
Yeah.
remember reading that. Is that something that like just pops in your mind, just like, hey, like maybe I might not get to whatever this portion of this plot thread is in this book, but maybe you can set something down in stone and come back to it later.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I think on one hand, I think every writer just has sort of preferences and predilections, characters they like to come back to or whatever for whatever reason. I mean, there are a handful of people that really like Elsa Bloodstone,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm one of them. And so I just keep shoving her into. I put her in A-Force, I put her in Jessica Jones, I
Mm-hmm.
put her in Deadpool, and now here we are in Jeff. So I like her. I think she's fun. I think a Monster Hunter is a great conceit that like fits really well in the Marvel universe, but does not get utilized nearly as much as it should. Um, I don't know why it doesn't quite work. I think a Monster Hunter. I mean, she's still got the costume, she's still got the powers. Like it's so close to being traditional superhero comics, but it's got this horror stuff in it that's very fun, I think. But when I was telling Jordan and the guys who were like getting the solicits and stuff ready, they were like, "Oh, so who's going to be in, four?" And I was like, "I think it's going to be mostly Elsa Bloodstone." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "Sorry." And they were like, "We just hope to be someone who would sell." And I was like, "Sorry." Like, I don't care. I mean, I do care. I want things to sell. I want things to be a hit, but I also just want to write what I want to write. And part of that, whether it's the concept organically leaning toward that, but listen, the concept 100% is organic to characters Jeff has met before coming back. I baked it into the concept, but I baked that pie, so I obviously put my finger on the
Mhm.
scale pretty hard. So, but I thought it was fun. Like, let's try to bring in some new characters that he doesn't interact with that often, or at least that I haven't written him interacting with that much. And then let's also bring in, the people he's really going to reach for, the Deadpools, the Gwenpools, the
Mhm.
Elsas, things like that. Um, and I don't know, it turned out to be really fun. I was really happy with it. My favorite thing about the whole series was a thing inspired by Toki's work, was the cartoon stone,
Mhm.
which Jeff swallows and it turns everything into cartoons, which is a funny thing to say when you're already writing and drawing
In
a
the
comic
cartoon.
book. Yeah, but she just really made it fun, and we found a way to like really pay it off in issue 4 that I was excited about. So it's been fun. It's
I'm,
been fun.
I'm glad that you were able to write more Jeff. I'm glad that we have more Jeff coming on the way, and I hope that it means more for the rest of us who can enjoy the little bugger trying to ruin everyone's day in one way or another. But of course, not only are you doing that, but again, congratulations over on the absolute Wonder Woman front. You guys are absolutely killing it, no pun intended, with
Thank you.
every freaking single book. And I'm gonna tell you this, man. Like, at the top of my pile is always whatever the brand new issue of Absolute Wonder Woman is. Doesn't matter whatever else is coming along. I'm like, you keep getting me on my toes. Like, every single stupid cliffhanger, I have to see what comes next. So it's been awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been an incredible ride. I felt like there was a lot of pressure leading up to 12, which was, our end of the year, and it had a lot of sort of teaser stuff in it, some big payoffs for the arc, but a lot of hints of what was coming, and I felt like that was received incredibly well. The absolute Zatanna design has
Mhm.
completely taken over the internet. I was like, the night it released, I saw like 8 to 10 fan arts of it. It was
Mhm.
crazy. So, it's been really fun. And then, of course, we had Matthias Bergara on the 2 issues following that, which are sort of a deliberate departure from where we were,
Mhm.
but are very exciting. I love what he brought to them. I think anyone who read that issue last month
Mhm.
can see how special his work is. I think it's even better in the next issue, maybe. Like, it pushes even harder. Also, Zatanna shows up for the first time, like in the book, in a way that isn't just silent reveal.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. And then in December, we've got Batman and Wonder Woman, which is super, super exciting. Um, yeah, I mean, Hayden's been sending in the work for
Mhm.
that, and it's just incredible looking. It's awesome.
I'm gonna pick apart your brain on all of this, Kelly, so that when the Thanksgiving meal comes in 2 weeks, I can enjoy issue number 14 and eat
Yes.
it well. I have to I have to ask in the maybe I'm getting my terminology wrong, but uh obviously, like, creating a personality for your character along with having that character grow and progress, like, those are incredibly important things when you are writing a book, right? It's not just like, hey, there's somebody that this person has to stop, or there's a bad guy or whatever. Like, those are, I think, the two pillars on how every single story goes, right? um she also, like, Absolute Diana has great intentions. It's got good intentions, as we saw her from the fight um with the lion in her origin story with Hades. I love that she has a no gives a crap attitude in moments. Like, Dr. Poison is talking and she's like, hey, like, you throw humans around and all that, and she's like, okay, like, yeah, that's your problem, not mine, or whatever. I love it. um How do you manage to give her, this sort of personality with all of these different layers while still managing to continue her progression as a character, learning more and growing more, by herself and with the people around her?
I mean, I think it's a hard balance, and I think probably it's salt to taste how well I do it for some person versus another person. Um, this issue and I would say the arc coming up are this next issue and the arc that's coming up, the season of the witch arc that
Mm-hmm.
starts in January, I think are much bigger. I'm not saying they're bigger challenges. I mean, what's bigger than the tetracide? But the tetracide, she solved the tetracide with such creativity, and I'm going to try to keep bringing that to it. But it meant that we didn't really see her, sort of getting pummeled or whatever. And so she ends up feeling like maybe her wins are a little too easy, even though she's going up against these things. But we'll be seeing a lot of how that doesn't always go easy for her as we progress. I think the season of the witch arc, particularly, is rough on her, both emotionally and physically. In a good way, though, that, like you said, pushes toward growth and change. I mean, I think that she came on the scene with an incredible amount of power and a very clear directive, but you know, your enemies just got to take an assessment of you and then they begin to plot about
Right.
how, okay, well, now we know what this is. Like, it's like it was easier for her at first because she was an unknown and now she's not an unknown and things are aligning against her. And, she knew that would happen, but how can you prepare for that? Like, your world is going to get worse before it gets better, you know?
Okay. I'll keep that in mind when I see Absolute Wonder Woman finds. I mean, we got the trident, and
I
the
love the Trident. It
gosh
was such
dang man.
so fun. I was expecting to really love the Trident because the idea of the sentient Trident was really great, and I knew Hayden's design for it would be incredible, and I thought that together we could really make those fight scenes interesting as she's sort of communing with it. But at the same time, I had no idea Geordie was going to bring
Mm,
so much dimension to it, not just how it looked, but how that all that water reflecting on
yeah.
everything gave everything. I mean, those are some of the most beautiful pages in all of Absolute Wonder Woman. I think those pages in the end of 11 and the start of 12 with the water. Um, I will say on Diana's characterization, a lot of it is just I get to stand on the shoulders of giants and cheat off their
Mm,
papers because I think Diana is, for the most part, very well rendered in the main universe. Her kindness, her compassion, her how resolved she is, how powerful she is. Like those things really come through in the main universe for the most part. I mean, sometimes you get misses, but mostly it's there. And I wanted this Diana to be Diana. And so a lot of that I brought over with us. And then I just tried to change a lot of the other circumstances around her. And then I tried to reflect a little things like I feel like this our Diana is a little desperate for community and that maybe makes her open to because she didn't have it because she knows she was supposed to have it and was denied her. It maybe makes her a little too hungry for that and maybe she's not always making the best choices in pursuit of that. Like I don't not consciously, she's not aware of it maybe, but like she's got a lot of unpowered friends who are just hanging out, and they seem very vulnerable right now to me. Um, so I think that, there are ways in which you can twist her personality to be a little different based on the different circumstances. But I think the power of Diana is saying that even in these horrible circumstances, she still came out the same,
mhm.
honed by this. And something that we'll be seeing as she goes along is her belief that they fucked up
Mhm.
by taking things from her and trying to put their boot on her neck that instead they've honed her into the most incredible weapon imaginable. Like that's her belief, I think, inside. But she doesn't want to be hardened by that. She doesn't want to be that. She'd like to just live her life and help people, but that's not her path.
It's admirable. I mean, every single time that I see, Steve or Barbara get in like some odd spot of danger, she's always there. But I think it also shows, like through the maze, helping out Petra. Even in like some of the darkest moments, like, somebody is gonna be out there helping your hand, and you might not know who that person is. I really, really like that idea of, hey, I like even in odd darkest times, maybe there is somebody out there that'll be able to, even if it's like opening a door for somebody. Like you have no idea like how.
Small, yeah, small kindnesses, they add up.
Which is a good thing for Diana, because she might need it for the
Yeah.
next couple of arcs. I want to ask too about some of the designs over for the last two arcs or so, because we've seen a couple of the gods that you have introduced. Some where I am just like, wow, that is definitely not what I anticipated. Like, for example, seeing Hades for the first time, I was like, wow, this is a very deep blue. You feel like you also have to make it. I feel like a little, like, obviously you have to make it a little bit different from what the regular DC universe has, but I can also tell that a lot of what these gods are, look like based on field design or even just the aesthetic of the character, feel like you've been inspired by Wonder Woman Historia, which we talked extensively about the first time you were on my channel. And I mean, just getting to see Sherman and these the Iulis, like just be able to bring these to life. I mean, the design work is impeccable. I don't know how you guys did it or like how the process went through there.
I mean, I think the good news for all of us, other than the fact that Hayden is just a generational talent here, is that we're all very aligned. So there's far less argument than I've usually seen on big designs. I mean, usually when you're doing a big designs that have a lot of eyes on them, sometimes there are too many cooks in the kitchen. People are not aligned on what they want, but there's been very little pushback and very little infighting about things. And I think it's just because we all sort of see it the same way, and we're all sort of rowing. When you're all pulling toward the same goal, it's just a lot easier to get there, and hopefully the choices that are made are really great. I think when it comes to the gods specifically, Hayden and I talked a lot about, I was like, I don't see any reason they should just look like humans. Like, unless they're pretending to be humans and
Right.
trying to hide out among humans, why would they want to look like attractive white people in togas? I don't see it. I don't see it a lot. And I'm not just swinging on Wonder Woman issues there. I'm swinging on a lot of media wants to just go to that. And I understand it obviously comes from someplace. We see it so much. It comes from these ideas of Greek society and things, but it just feels very tired to me. And I think particularly in a Wonder Woman book where you sometimes have wall-to-wall Amazons or wall-to-wall gods, like you really have to think about each of these choices individually to make sure they hit. And so that was one of our approaches. I was like, listen, if the gods looked human, to me, they'd be wearing like the greatest like sort of androgynous fashion you've ever seen. And Hayden and I talked about it, and they were like, okay, all right. And then I was like, but I'm not saying they should be human. I think like let's make them giant, let's make them weird, let's lean into it. Like, why would they want to be like humans? They think they're better than humans, you know? And so that was sort of our starting point. I think I don't know if Apollo was the first design we saw or if it was, I think it was Apollo. And I really liked it. I thought it was great. It was very inspired by Historia. But when it came time to Hecate, I knew we needed something big. We needed something great because she was going to be in the book a lot, but also it had to feel different than Historia. Like, there's a point where you have to do your own thing. You can't just stand on everybody else's shoulders. And so Hayden swung big time with that one. And I was like, yes, I was like, that is it. That is it. Hecate is probably the favorite god design for me, but I think mostly I hear from people about Persephone. They love that
Persephone
Persephone
is
design.
awesome. Yeah.
It is a really great combination of, Hayden just knows how to do it, man. Like the combination of sort of softness and naturalness that comes from who she really is, combined with the sort of hard metal and of being queen of the underworld. And a lot of people don't know this. Most people who aren't mythology nerds don't know this, but a lot of Persephone's stories she's tight, she's close with Hecate. And so, more than bringing in, other than the crown, which is obviously coded toward Hades, a lot of the harder elements feel more like Hecate than anything else to me because she's also a, sort of a death goddess, an underworld goddess. So, there's like little stuff like that that you try and lean into that I always feel like for that stuff, people may never know where that came from, but when you're rooting it in something that comes from the stories, it feels true to them. Even if they don't know the story, it feels like it came from somewhere that makes sense because it does. And so you sort of trust it more, you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. And the only reason that I even know half of like what the discussions are here is because this, believe it or not, I took a humanities class a couple of years ago because I had to, I had to, and all of this subject matter came up when we talked about deities and like the distancing oneself from their person and whatever
Yeah.
ascended, powers that might be, and all of these names came up, and I was like, okay, well, I mean, it makes sense. Like these are Greek folks, so like I always find it really, really interesting to see sort of the philosophy on what goes in directly with this. Is it just going to be the same design folded over and over again? Not that Disney doing it in a couple of movies in the 2000s are necessarily a bad thing. It's just more so, hey, like hearing that you guys wanted it androgynous and like as possible makes me very, very happy as a person.
Well, good. I mean, I'm not saying that's right for all of them. I'm just saying, why would they naturally just fit into human binary category? Like, it doesn't make sense. You're gods. You can be anything. You can be a lion. You can be a moon. You can be a, like, why would you be like, oh, I'll just be a really attractive blonde woman? It
Right.
just doesn't feel like it's sort of stretching. We've got Aphrodite coming up.
Mm.
In Season of the Witch. I know you guys think it's going to be Hecate, but it's going to be Aphrodite. And let me tell you what, I love that design. I'm not saying it's better than Hecate's or Persephone's for you out there that love it, but it's a really strange choice, and I think it's incredibly cool. So I hope you guys
I've
love
got my seat buckled.
it.
I will be there. I will be there. I also want to ask too about some of the designs specifically with the the humans slash like human adjacent characters. Like Doctor Poison being an actual poison cloud is the coolest design I think we've ever had for the character, and I
Thank
don't
you.
think number two comes close. I know that it very much is pun-orific. I don't know what the word is for the pun, but I, where did that idea come from?
So I think I just really like I don't know how deep to get into this because there's some gentle stuff in here, but when you read about Dr. Poison, like beyond just reading her in the comics, like her identity is very confusing. There's a lot of her pretending to be a man. There's a lot of sort of strangeness around that to me maybe feels like she's not super comfortable in her skin. So when you're already talking about someone who is dealing in these toxins, and we're definitely leaning into, hey, there are a lot of horrible science experiments meet weird arcane powers people don't understand happening in a laboratory somewhere. I think you're going to get some weird reactions. And so one of them I thought was, what if poison is non-corporeal and we don't really explain it yet, but it's sort of assumed something happened to her or she did something to herself or something, and then we can leave it for later. But her being non-corporeal is sort of really interesting for a character that maybe is not comfortable in their own skin to begin with, if we look at the record for poison. So
Mm-hmm.
that gives her a really interesting dimension to me. It also gave us a really fun way to design. I wanted, and Hayden obliged, and really Hayden seemed to love it as well. So I hope they did. But I wanted like a really clunky, ridiculous, like World War II suit that, like, felt like it came out of Hellboy more than,
Right.
anything else. And so that's where we started. Unfortunately for all of us, because I don't ever want to change that design, unfortunately, I thought I was really clever and I wrote it into the narrative that this is like a point of contention for Poison, which completely makes sense. But it does mean that we have to upgrade her suit. So she does get a new suit in Season of the Witch arc. But I'm happy to report that because Hayden is a genius, the upgraded suit, quote unquote, is still really cool and fun and feels like a great step forward for the character. I mean, maybe someday we'll see Poison depending on how far we go. Like maybe she's going to be in like a crazy high tech, Tony Stark kind of a suit, but Cale is going to slow walk it as long as she can.
I
Clearly.
I can already see the hazmat influences.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. The poison and the inability to be touched. I think it comes from a very different place. Like with
Mhm,
hazmat, it comes from like a very I don't know though. I guess they're vulnerable. I think of poison as being a lot older
mhm.
than hazmat. I guess maybe that's why I think of it a little differently. One feels a little more like a vulnerable teen who's gone through these sort of traumatic experiences, and one is a little more I'm an evil genius who also has some discomfort with my who myself is, and so it's led this dark path, right? But you're right. There is some overlap there. I do really like Poison. Uh, I think she has a lot of potential as a very sassy villain. I don't think she should be an anti-hero, but I can feel myself trying to make her one. I just she seems really complex to me in an interesting way. But I will confess I do not have the same vulnerable feelings for her that I have for Hazmat.
Mm,
I became very attached to her during my time in
mm.
Captain Marvel, so it happens.
As long as we get more good banter between Diana and Poison, I'm okay with that. Um,
I'm not positive it's going to work out with this way, but the way she solves the poison problem in Season of the Witch is pretty hilarious. I don't know. Maybe it'll be underwhelming for people, but I think it's very worth it. So we'll see.
okay, we'll get an It's Jeff compilation somewhere in there, and it'll be okay in that front. I can also feel though that you've read a lot of Greg Rucka Wonder Woman. And I can definitely feel it from the Veronica Cale. You brought Ferdinand the Kithator in. I was not expecting that at all. Like, like
There was no way I was not going to bring in a Kithator or a Minotaur for those who don't know. Uh, it's I love Ferdinand. It was funny though. Some critic on some social media like yelled at me for being too cute with the name, and I was like, I mean, I didn't invent this. Go talk to Greg Rucka about it. Also wrong. But so yeah, I really love Ferdinand. I think Greg probably has my favorite plots for Wonder Woman. I've talked a lot about how it was Gale that sort of cracked the sort of vulnerability and the sense of humor of Diana and made her feel more relatable and less sort of even Greg's Diana, when I read it for her the first time, she just felt a little removed, a little
mhm.
reserved, and it kept me from like fully falling in love with her. But then after I read Gale's Wonder Woman, I really fell head over heels. And when I went back and read Greg's stuff after that,
Hmm.
I liked it even more because all his plots are so strong, how he integrates those villains and heroes. I mean, one of the reasons I was excited but also nervous about our Medusa plot twist is because his Greg Rucka's Eyes of the Gorgon is one of
Hmm.
my favorite stories.
So good.
Um, Eyes of the Gorgon even inspired one of the arcs I did with Star on Captain Marvel, where it's all that Times Square stuff where they're fighting each other, and uh, I just like that big heroic arena sacrifice stuff, and it feels very right for Absolute Wonder Woman. So it's been fun. I like his characters. I try to put in as many little. I mean, Cale is the fact that it took until Greg to get a
Hmm.
Cale feels like a crime. I mean, that I think a Wonder Woman always needs that kind of character, the same way I don't know. I don't like doing one-to-ones, but I guess the closest comparison in the regular universe is like a Lex Luthor for
Right.
Superman, like someone who's incredibly motivated and smart and powerful and technically powerless. Although we haven't fully seen what Cale is capable of, so it's possible she's got something going on.
I'm very excited because Cale is one of my favorite antagonists in superhero lore, if you want to call it that. And I think you hit it right on the head with everything you said specifically. I just remember like seeing her up front, like the first like from the first pages of the Maze arc. I was like, oh shoot, they're actually like Kelly's like swinging for the fences on this one. We're not gonna hold any strings here. And I do think like it is important to have characters like that okay, like they might not be able to stand up physically like one on one, but they can intimidate the protagonist in plenty of other different ways. I think that's why Lex Luthor has worked for 80 years in running. And I'm
Yeah.
surprised it took us like what set like 60 years to get a Veronica Cale or Lex Luthor type character for Diana. So
Yeah, long overdue. Well, we're definitely going to lean into it. I think I'm not sure when we're going to get to some of the more relevant backstory for Cale. I think you're looking at if we're calling the season of the witch arc 4, then at least 6 until we get too much more on Cale. But there are a couple really big hints about some of the shit that's going on with
mhm.
her in the season of the witch arc, and I don't know how much there are hints of it, but she does appear in the Batman issue in December as well.
Okay.
So you get a little more of her there. I will also say that for people who want more Cale, if you haven't read the villains, what is it
The
called?
one
The
shot.
Villainy Inc. What is
The
it
younger.
called? Is that what it's called? No, that's Villainy Inc. That's old Wonder Woman villains. What is it called? The villains one shot, whatever it's called. Sorry, I'm doing a terrible promo here. That Al wrote her really well, and she has a lot
It's
of
absolute evil,
sway.
right?
Yeah, yeah, Absolute Evil. There you go. She has a lot of sway there. Like she's sort of, I'm not saying she's the strongest one there, but she presents herself as the leader of those villains, and it's really well done. Al has officially. I mean, she shows up in all my notes and all my plotting, of course, because she's a big part that's like under the surface. But I think Al's written way more dialogue for her than I have at this point. So, if people are into Cale, they should definitely make sure they pick that up.
Okay.
It also had that incredible Jared Perel, Cale and Wonder Woman wrestling cover that, I mean, people's minds started to explode when they saw that.
It did indeed. So yes, pick up Absolute Evil at your local comic shop or wherever you pick up your comics and go read it. A buddy of mine got 2 copies because he was super excited for it. He wanted the Ra's al Ghul and he got a lot more. So there's more I think in store there. But I also want to ask about the character Io because
Mm.
this is just me as somebody like when I was a kid, I read a whole bunch of universe books, solar system books, and I always stood out to me because it was one of the four Galilean moons. It was
It's the best moon.
it's the best moon,
It's the
like
best moon.
legitimately.
I mean, I do also like Callisto as a moon,
Mm.
which boy, are we appearing really like nerds now talking about favorite moons. But uh yes, same. Io, the moon. And Greg, that goes right back to Greg.
Hmm.
Greg really brought in Io. I'm not saying she didn't exist before, did she? I don't know. I don't know if he created her or if he just raised her up, but ever since Greg handled her or created her, she's often like the blacksmith of the Amazons. She's like, so you don't see her a lot, but when you see her, she always leaves an impression. She's traditionally got shorter hair than most Amazons and usually is much more buff. And we wanted to keep both of those in part because we wanted to show off like a really big Amazon and show that Diana's still bigger. That only really works for people who already know who Io is, I suppose, but it works enough. And I just love Io. She's probably my favorite. I know everyone likes, Antiope and
Hmm.
Nubia and all these others. Io's one of my favorites, so it was always going to be her. Unless the only reason it wouldn't have been Io would be if DC had let me do something like Grace Choi,
Mm.
who is an Amazon, but like you wouldn't expect to have grown up on Themyscira. Like we talked about something like a swing like that. I'm a big Grace Choi fan, and she could have been really interesting, but in the end, we decided it muddied it too much. You know, if you were just meeting the Amazons and Grace Choi was among them, it's a little easier, but why is she separated from them? It brought up too many questions that were not about Themyscira, and we wanted to keep it a little focused on Themyscira, at least for now, you know. So
Okay. And this means that we're going to be getting Callisto somewhere popping up later in your run, and I can't wait.
I don't know about that, but I do like that moon. I do like that name, and I even like the Marvel character Callisto quite a bit, although she's often butchered.
You're not wrong about that, unfortunately. I also have to say, because you talked about the Iulis and Sherman, we've talked about them a whole bunch in the last year or so. It feels like they're also channeling a lot of each other's, like their art styles, like in certain sequences. Like when I saw the Iulis doing the tiger story that
Hmm.
that Cersei is telling Diana.
Hmm.
I was like, wow, like this art style feels like it's mimicking a lot of like Hayden Sherman storytelling.
Yeah.
And I can't help but be brought to say that like when I'm looking at like Artemis, in the Maze
Hmm.
arc, I feel a lot of the Iulis from Sherman. So it feels like these two
Mm.
are like crafting and blending a style that mixes well together right before our eyes. We don't see it. Maybe I'm.
That's fun. That's fun. One of the reasons we brought Mattia in was because he was so different than what Hayden was doing. Like we didn't want whoever we brought in to try to ape Hayden and maybe not do it as well. We wanted it to be its own thing. And so Mattia seemed like a great fit in that respect. I obviously also love working with him, but I did write into it the same way I did in Bergara's. I wrote like some specific, like let's see some, the story in Lady or the Tiger, where like let's try to do it in like this storytelling sort of slightly Greek style. Hayden's got it specifically in, I guess it's issue 3, where it's on the pottery, where she's
Mhm.
describing what the tetracide does. And then Matthias Bergara has it in his arc as well, in little places where you see they're looking through a book that has stuff about the illustrations about the Amazons. And it just feels like one of those ways to both tie Diana to her Greek heritage and culture, which she's missing a lot of in this, because though Circe has that and she would have been raised in that, it's still limited, right? It's still a step removed from the way you were supposed to be experiencing it. And then it also helps tie the books together just as a unit to make them all feel like they're talking to each other, for sure.
Yeah, it is a treat to have all of these creators bundled up, all feeling very much like they've all got their distinct styles, but it very much feels like a lot of them are giving the same tone in a well-fashioned manner. And I think for the reader, I think it just makes up for an experience where if it's not Sherman who's on, you know that they're gonna bring in their A+ game as well too. So I think it's a great thing that
Yeah,
you guys are doing.
thank you. I do think that I'm glad that people are enjoying it. I sort of hate it when readers try to compare them with each other or say one is better than the other or whatever, but I do appreciate that people seem to understand that this is a priority for the book, that the work always remains exceptional and that they can relax. Like they're not going to tune into an issue and all of a sudden it's not doing the same stuff it was doing last month. Like even if the art is going to change, it's still going to be incredible and we're still going to be driving to that same hoop, you know?
Oh, for sure. And one last thing on if you want to call it the previous issues before I talk a little bit about the look ahead for Absolute Wonder Woman. Please never stop the flashbacks with Cersei and Diana, because they always manage to light up a portion of my day. But I also love how we get to see like what goes on, and like like we get to see a facet of like why Diana is thinking the way she is, or like why she's doing some of her actions. And we see like, oh, like there maybe it's a bedtime story, maybe it's something that she has to fight as a kid. I really like the sort of parallels that you're bringing in with this adoptive motherhood with Diana, but you also get to see it too with some of her interactions with Persephone, for example. Like one of my favorite conversations, maybe in the book so far, in issue 7, where she's talking about Persephone, and then at the end, like Persephone understands, like at the end, like where she is in her headspace. I don't know. I just really like that you're bringing through with pulling all in with the motherhood. Like it seems like it's just one of the facets that you're going to continue on moving forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's an anchor point of the book for sure. Mothers and daughters, sisterhood, community, these are all the anchor points of the book. I think the Circe Diana relationship is one of the strongest things about the book. Weirdly, in Season of the Witch, a place where it feels like Circe should be showing up a lot, she's going to be more indirectly involved.
Okay.
There's going to be more talk of her. The flashbacks will have her a little bit, but they'll be more focused on Aphrodite. But we are, I believe, going to be getting, the plan right now is that we'll be getting a lot of Circe in 21 and 22. So for people who are anxious to see more of her and Diana, sometimes in flashback, but sometimes in real life, real time, new situation, that will be coming soon. So,
and yeah, with the reveal of Hippolyta, who knows what the future may have in store for us. And we also have a future where she's gonna be popping up with Absolute Batman 15 issues in. I am still super shocked, and maybe I shouldn't be shocked, but I'm partly surprised that you guys are doing a crossover this early. We got Absolute Wonder Woman 15, which you're authoring, and then obviously Scott's gonna come in with issue number 16. So my question is, when did it feel like this was the appropriate time to put these two together in the same room and have them share that same room for 2 issues?
So I think that part of the reason to do it this way, to let 2 of the characters share page, like drive toward, I mean, obviously there are some metrics there you're looking for that are just like, hey, let's sell some comic books. Like Batman and Absolute Wonder Woman meeting for the first time. That's a comic people want to see. So I'm not trying to act like it's devoid of that, but it's like, in order to avoid doing a massive crossover with all the characters, I think the idea is to baby step it, right? To like slowly work your way into it. And so then these characters have crossed over and have maybe talked about other characters, their acknowledgement of the existence of these other characters. And then you get the next meeting between some other characters. And then that slowly builds it up, I think, not toward the eventual crossover you'll have to have. I think we're still too far out to be thinking that way, but it does start to connect the universe a little more. I mean, I think a strength of this series has been, or of this line, has been allowing each series to like really be its own thing, to develop its world. We're all keeping certain benchmarks and keystones in mind to drive towards or to avoid, or, et cetera, so that they don't contradict one another. But you're still trying to build your own world. I mean, that's one of the reasons I'm so excited they all look so different. I mean, it could have easily been that DC wanted to like homogenize that a little bit, so all the books sort of looked the same or felt the same, but like they feel like very different places, which is exciting. But at the same time, you do have to build towards these characters crossing over. I mean, that's part of what people are there for, is how are these characters going to interact? What amazing things are they going to do together? So, I mean, I think I shouted out that I thought Wonder Woman and Batman should meet first. Some of that's because it's always going to be Batman, because he's the most popular guy.
He's Batman.
He's the shiny star. He's Batman. But, I thought, I wasn't trying to shove Jason out of the way, but I did feel like where his Superman was at and where my Wonder Woman were at, it made more sense that Diana would reach out than it did Cal would. But it then turned out to be really hard to do. And I sort of have jokingly said Jason Aaron tricked me into trying to go first. He did not. Jason Aaron is a delight, and I'm sure he did not try to trick me.
No
But
rugs pulled.
yeah, it was hard to figure out. I mean, once you get into it, you're like, oh my God, the expectation on this, like, there's only so many pages, and we can only do so much, you know? But I'm very happy with how it turned out. Um, I are part of it. I'm still seeing the parts of it that are coming together for the other side, but I'm sure that will be excellent as well.
Yeah, I can't wait because we didn't I didn't get a file of Absolute Batman issue number 16 for the cover. And I think the only reason might be because maybe Scott's hiding something that we don't know about. I'm partly joking.
It could be. It could be. I mean, maybe that I will that image that's been floating around that Nick Dragata did of them standing
Mhm.
together, will that be a cover or a variant cover? Maybe it's from inside. I don't know.
Who
Maybe it
knows?
was just an illustration. Who knows?
Who knows? But Scott's always got something up his leg. I am quite sure. I've been reading his stuff for 15. Did you know that
Yeah.
my first comic book for Batman was his Batman run back in 2002?
Really? From Black Mirror?
Um, I got a trade of Black Mirror and a copy of Court of Owls, given to me by my cousin back when I was like 11 years old.
That's a pretty good start. Black Mirror is one of my favorite Batman comics of all time. And it's one of the books I use as a benchmark,
Mhm.
as a reminder to people to keep an open mind, because I was one of those people who was like, I love Dick Grayson, but that's not my Batman. And then I proceeded to absolutely love those stories with him as Batman. So you got to keep an open mind. Sometimes stuff will surprise you.
It's good stuff. Dan Waters also apparently agrees, but that is
Yeah.
neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. I also want to talk a little bit about Zatanna, who is one of my favorite characters, and thank you for putting this out because I do a video of all the solicitations and whatnot. Goes up every 9 a.m. or whenever the solicitations drop. And I think I probably got a lot more views on it because I put Absolute Zatanna on the thumbnail, and I'm sure that it brought over a lot more people than anticipated. My first question is, why her first, sorta, before we get some of the more Wonder Woman related character? I mean, I love Zatanna, but I was just shocked when I was like, I'm reading through issue 12. I'm like, oh, okay, that's where we're going with this. And then we get the solicitation. Oh, she's here, and she doesn't look half bad.
So I think it just made sense because Diana is now a witch. It just made sense that she should have to fight a witch, and that should be turn out to be really difficult for her. I mean, I think it's sort of that theory of, if you bring a new skill set to a fight, you're kicking everyone's ass until someone who also knows that skill set shows up, and now suddenly things look a little different for you. Diana, I think Diana is an incredible witch. She has incredible power at her disposal because she's got, under the right circumstances, we've already seen that she can call on the gods and they'll like juice her up or whatever. Um, and we also, she was taught by the greatest sorceress in the world, arguably, um, who is the patron, who is sometimes called the goddess of magic, but who is, I would say, more a patron of the goddess of magic. Um, so I think that I'm not trying to diminish Diana's skill, but that's not her full-time gig, man.
Mhm.
Her full-time gig is having a super punch and flight and talking to animals and liquid fast reflexes, etc., right? So the magic is all skill set on top of power, and then she has all these incredible weapons. So I'm not saying Zatanna could just wipe the floor with her. I am saying that Zatanna's true whole power is magic. So you're just talking about different levels. I mean, I'm not saying Zatanna never trained and she probably can do some hand-to-hand combat and stuff, but she wasn't raised in hell by goddesses to be the one true weapon or whatever, but she is tapped into magic that Diana can't even access.
Hmm.
It's just completely different. So, um, it made a ton of sense to like explore those ideas and like see what these characters will be, setting characters that are traditionally allies and sometimes friends, instead setting them initially against each other. I hope we'll have some really fun surprises in it, and we'll see how all that breaks. But I think, it was tricky to find a witch that was going to be interesting and fun, but also capable of really taking Diana on. It required a big swing, and Zatanna felt like the right one.
I am also strapped up with my seatbelt for this. But there's also like the design aspect of it too. And maybe it's just me growing up in an era of Cartoon Network where I had, like Raven was on Teen Titans,
Yeah.
Sam and Ember were on Danny Phantom. It's really hard for me to like distinguish myself from like I've always had a, I'll just say, fascination with the
Hmm.
the goth characters, and she for sure feels like that. Um, where did that inspiration come from?
Well, I feel like she straddles the line pretty well. Like, I feel like she's a little more punk, but I can
Mm,
absolutely see the goth. I think that's a hybrid for sure. I mean, I think some of it just came from, we definitely looked at it didn't make sense in this darker world that she'd like have a top hat and
mm-hmm,
tails. Like, even once we free her and see her outside of that cell where she's wearing something, prison garb or whatever, mental patient garb, whatever it is, um, it just seeing her in a top hat and tails, I think it just would have felt out of sync with that world and with how she would be. But we still wanted her to have a lot of style and like a performance element to it. Hence, you get these giant platform boots that are thigh highs. We thought we played a lot with where and how the fishnets should or shouldn't work. I thought it was very fun to just sort of reverse them, especially for, instead of being on the bottom, they're on the top,
mm-hmm.
which is especially fun for a character that does spells backwards. These are the little things we entertain ourselves with.
No pun intended there.
Yeah, I think we also looked at like she's got a look from I'm gonna butcher what year it is. I guess it's the 80s. Maybe it was the early 90s. There's a mini series Come Together where she's got like a pretty weird, fun look. We looked at that a little bit. Um, so there were a lot of ideas that went into it. I think the hard thing to do, which Hayden, as usual, just sort of made look effortless, was finding the hybrid between, just because it's a darker, harsher world, we don't want to shave the fun edges off of Zatanna. Like, she's got a way as a personality to be, and you don't want to lose all that just because things were more horrible. You still want to recognize her the same way with Diana. So I hope people will still really recognize her, even though she's a bit different. I really love her. We've got a lot of fun stuff coming for her. I hope some of it will be surprising.
If you got the absolute universe completely, if it's the complete flip of whatever Prime Earth or Zero has, I think that the just like the ways that you can switch up stuff while still maintaining, somewhat true to the character. I think there's a lot of levity in what you guys are going to be able to do for the next arc. And Diana needs, and she needs tough opponents. Like, if she can pull out the trident like that, man, I mean, come on. I'm very excited,
Well, thank you. I hope it doesn't disappoint.
and I'm sure it won't. And you know what? If DC were to call you, said like, oh, like a lot of people really love the Satan arc, and they said we have Absolute Green Arrow coming up, would you ever be open to doing a Zatanna like 5-issue series or something like that for the
I mean,
Absolute Universe?
I have to say yes for sure, but I don't know that when we come out of this arc. I mean, I'm still working on it, so I don't want to say one way or another, but I think when we come out of this arc, there's a very obvious story that could be told at that point for Zatanna, but I'm not sure it makes a great absolute story right now. Like maybe it doesn't fit in the mode of what we're doing right now. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But I would be shocked that if she didn't get some play, whether it's getting her own mini or showing up in other books, including ours. Like I suspect people will want to play with that character. So
I okay, so what you're telling me is that Scott Snyder could totally take Zatanna, put him into Absolute Batman for like one issue or so, and like, oh hey, like we just popped up. I don't know, maybe it.
she totally could show up in Batman. She would make a lot of sense there. I do think Scott and the Batman team have a lot on their plates, character wise
Oh, they
and
do.
story wise, so they might not be planning to go that direction.
But yeah, I'm very excited for what comes next in Absolute Wonder Woman, and I'm sure, well, a lot of other people who are reading also feel the same thing as well. But one thing I definitely am heartbroken still about by is the unfortunate end to a series I was still incredibly enjoying with Birds of
Aw,
Prey.
thanks.
It's I just remember when Dawn of DC came out, I was like, oh, like they got Kelly Thompson from Marvel. Like, what's she gonna do? And we got a Birds of Prey book. We had a really, really fun, strong start with Lee Romero and all the other fantastic collaborators you had, and including Sami Basri, Juan Cabal, and whatnot. It's just been a ride through these five core members that have, we've got a lot of ups and downs, but through video games and also through some punches, they were able to at least make some stuff work. But
I
I
love doing
yeah,
it. It's hard. It's hard to let it go. I love doing it.
it stinks because there's a part of me. I was talking about this with a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, where we were just talking about some of the books that are published through year in year out, or see, you can even do this with movies or television shows too. I think we were talking about Peacemaker season 2, and he asked me something along the lines of like, does does it warrant the story needing to be told? Like, what does this, these things add? But I've told myself, like, if there's something there, for those characters, and there's like a reason, it should continue through. And I just felt like, I don't know, like I think we had a couple more good arcs in it, but I understand like part of the, if you even want to call a reason to like, oh, like, they're, we have to cut it off at some point, but at the same time too, like, some of these characters like pop up in here, like you won't get Sin anywhere else. I'm not thinking anyways. So I don't know, like there's a lot of
Yeah,
nagging thoughts in my head.
it's always hard to it's always extra hard to leave if you feel like you're abandoning a character that's not going to get picked up anywhere. And except for Dinah, it's possibly true with all of these guys. I mean, Barda is, of course, enjoying a sort of resurgence right now, which I do pat myself on the back with contributing to. But, so I have a little more hope that maybe she'll get thrown into rotation. She's hard, though. Um, she's not only a very specific voice, whether you write her as I do or not. I know some people don't like it, but she's just so powerful. Like it's hard. I mean, that became a real problem on the book where I didn't want her to leave, but it was a challenge creating obstacles that worked for all of them when you've got a new god on the team. And does that hurt the book? I don't know. I feel like I always was finding creative ways to solve it and to still tell the stories I wanted to tell. But I can't pretend it wasn't part of the thought process. It was. But yeah, Sin, I feel like Cass, I don't know. She has also had such a resurgence of late, and she's got her own book. So as long as that continues, I feel like, she won't get lost. I feel like Barbara is pretty locked in. Dinah is going to have some Black Label stuff. I feel like Dinah, of all of them, is the most malleable to fit in sort of any scenario you want. You can put her on the Justice League. You can make her a street detective. You can put her in the Green Arrow book. She can be on a female team book. Like she can do anything. So I worry a little less about Dinah. Um, Sin is obviously in the most danger, which is hard because this was a lot about trying to bring Sin in a way that would make her viable for people to use her or not. And so it's hard. I mean, this goes a little bit back to the thing you were talking about when we were talking about Jeff and about leaving little things that you can go back to. I mean, I think writers do leave little things for themselves, like, oh, I'd love to go explore that one day, maybe not in this book, but maybe with this character somewhere else. But you're also leaving those for other writers to come behind you, like, oh, maybe someone else will find this interesting and want to pick up on this and carry it forward. So I don't know. You hope that the work you've done is going to encourage others to keep going, even if it's not with what you were doing specifically. So I have some hope for it. But yeah, I mean, part of you, there's a relief when you finish a book and then you're like, I'd sort of just like to go back into it. And then you're sort of not done with it. But I don't know. There was a little bit for me on Birds of Prey, a disconnect, and I can't tell if it's just because Absolute Wonder Woman came around at the same time and was such a juggernaut that it made it feel like I couldn't get anyone to pay attention to Birds of Prey no matter what I did. And so I kept tweaking the formula a little bit. Like, the On the Run arc was a big attempt to like have them really on their back foot, have them on the run, literally, have them being attacked and developing some, I hoped, pretty good supervillains for them to become part of their rogues gallery. I mean, you don't do that if you don't do that with issue 20 if you think you're ending at 28. Like I'm trying to build something that lasts longer, but it didn't really seem to work. Like some people really liked it and I saw a lot of good reviews and praise, but it didn't seem to like change the numbers or like bring people back to the book. And so at a certain point, you just have to look at what DC is saying and go, I don't know. I don't think any of the changes that we could make to this are going to feel right either. So maybe we just let it end and end it the right way and then leave it open for someone else to come back to it sooner rather than later. Like sometimes holding on to it too long can backfire.
But I think in response to that, do you believe that in the 28 issues that you've had with this band of characters, do you think that it strengthened you as a writer in terms of balance, like figuring out how to juggle these specific characters, especially with I don't want to call her a crutch, but there's somebody like Big Barda who like you said, like doesn't have the same obstacles as some of these other characters do? Because I remember the last time that we talked and I remember asking about like how difficult is it creating conflict between characters if they're not specifically doing anything. Like, so for example, if they're playing video games, how do you have there being even just like a tiny bit of friction with those characters? Do you feel that you've learned how to maybe better balance a book, or has it like maybe improved
Yeah, I
your
mean,
process?
the interpersonal stuff always, as long as I built the characters correctly or did my research properly, the inner character stuff, their interplay tends to come pretty naturally to me. You know, dialogue is sort of the a strength that comes easiest for me. I would say plotting is harder for me. Some of that comes from, I don't know, some of that comes from just not wanting to commit, be decisive and commit to through lines for a plot. But a lot of it comes from, this is a weird thing, but a lot of it comes from I really like detective stories and mystery stories and sort of locked room type stories where there's something you're trying to figure out. And that does not lend itself to the best developed villains because often the villains are not appearing initially, or they're not what they seem, or it takes longer in the arc for the reader to be really introduced to them. So it's one of those things where I don't really think of it as a weakness, because I think it's just a predilection. But I do have to watch myself, because it is an area where I have to put a lot of time, or I can find myself sort of lost and not happy with the way the story is coming together. And it's happened sometimes. I think that on Birds of Prey was a really great example of that, where I had to really push myself, especially because everything that was happening on Absolute Wonder Woman was so easy and successful. And I kept sort of looking for ways that I could tweak the Birds of Prey formula to get those same kind of people excited about something like Birds of Prey. And I never found it, but I I still like all the stories we did. I still enjoyed them. I still thought they were great solves for developing these characters and showing them being heroes and trying their best and being a community. That's what I'm always sort of interested in, telling some jokes, throwing some punches. That's what I like.
Hey, if you have Barbara Gordon and Dinah Lance on your team, I mean, I think it's hardly what we expect, right? There to be a little bit of sass and pepper. Is that a thing? I don't think that's a thing.
Sounds like it should be.
It sounds like it should be, but yeah, I'm definitely going to miss it, and yeah, hopefully the next time you or whenever the next time is you come on, you'll be able to tell me about like, oh, maybe you had like secret plans that just never got through to the page.
Maybe.
But I also have to ask on the Birds of Prey run. If this were ever collected in an omnibus, which I'm sure that it probably will, like 4 or 5 years down the line, like, Tom Taylor's Nightwing got one. I think that's like partly the benchmark for like the most recent book that we've had come out in Omni, and Titans by Taylor is also too. If they, I'm trying to think of just like what my thought, if DC were to say like, hey, like maybe you could, do like an introduction or add some like extras on in that Omni, would you have any like super special secrets added on if they were ever to approach you on something like that front?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'd love for Birds of Prey to get an omnibus. I think they've started printing some of Gale's and things, so I'm sure I'd be quite far down the line, but I would love it. I do think 28 issues is a pretty great collection.
Yep.
For an oversized. To get it all in one, that's pretty good. Just the other day, I got asked by someone to look at the script, so maybe you could put some script in. All of Leo's design stuff is so incredible. I'd certainly write an intro if people wanted it. I don't know if that's a thing. I've never been asked to do that for the other ones that have come out, but I haven't had a lot, so maybe it is standard. I don't know.
It's gonna come, Kelly. I guarantee you, man. Like, I would love to have it on my book.
Well, I do think the popularity of Absolute Wonder Woman helps. I know they're very different properties, but as name recognition, you know, advances for me at DC, I feel like more people are likely to pick it up. I also feel like even though they're incredibly different books, with very different approaches and different art and everything, that there are a lot of common themes. Birds of Prey takes it in a lighter, more bantery way, but like all the themes of women coming together and helping women, sisterhood, community, like all of those are those same things I'm interested in. So they tend to pop up in most of my books. I'm sure if people look under the hood, they'll find.
They'll get a chance to see it. And one last thing, as per like every single time we do one of these conversations, I always ask about a creator-owned / non Big Two book, and I want to partly focus some time, maybe not like get too deep into it, but I read Scarlett the other day because my buddy in Malaysia has been knocking at my door, not literally knocking, but he has been texting me like every single month. Did you read Scarlett yet, Dom? And I'm like, I've never read a G.I. Joe book. I don't know who this character is. And finally, last month, I capitulated and I said, you know what? I'll read this book for you if it means less all caps messages and like the middle of the night. Fine, you get your way. I have to say, I know nothing. I know jack squat about G.I. Joe, even though I got a whole lot of toys. I reckon all that stuff. I get it. This is the first G.I. Joe material that I've ever read, and this is the first time I've been exposed to it. Besides, like, I mean, The Rock probably was in one of those movies. Anyways, that's besides the point. I wasn't terribly like shocked by. It was a good introduction for me. I understand who Scarlett is, how she operates, and
Well, that's good.
And so I guess I could give a pat on myself on the back, but I do legitimately think that, hey, you got somebody into G.I. Joe partly, so there's that. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad. I feel like Scarlett has a lot of overlap with a lot of things you already like. So I know that it can be hard to get into it, but I feel like it's not, once you're in there, I feel like it makes a lot of sense,
Yeah.
I think that I'm really glad you liked it. I'm glad that you didn't feel lost, because that's always like a hard thing we deal with, where you're like, wait a minute, is it going to be, how much do I have to hold the reader's hand, and how much can we just tell the story we're trying to tell, So it's always good to hear that that someone who wasn't sort of steeped in all the lore and stories like still got it and appreciated it. I've talked a lot about how I think the original pitch was a little more like my Black Widow book, where it was a little tighter and a little more spy focused. But like Marco's art had such like a kinetic energy to it that I ended up pivoting to make it a little more feel of like a little bit more like a John Wick kind of a thing, right? Where it's a little more chaotic and wild and driven, and it really ended up paying off for the book. I had a lot of fun. Scarlett is a very early crush character for me, and Scarlet Snake Eyes was one of my first. I mean, shipping didn't exist yet, but I thought they were the greatest couple ever. So I was really excited when they were going to let me do this.
Yes. I'm so glad to hear that, because that was one of the highlights of the thing for me. Like, were you a big G.I. Joe fan growing up, or was it just like I got around to it later?
No, I really loved it when I was little. The cartoon, which my mom actually would not let us watch after a certain point. And she wasn't, even though I was furious with her, she wasn't wrong. Her objection was Shipwreck, who is an incredibly misogynistic, sexist character.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not misogynistic, but he's certainly sexist. And, he would make jokes about Lady J all the time. And like, I either didn't understand or didn't care. And my mom heard them and was like, what the fuck? So, she made some decisions. That was probably during her most religious period, where we're going to the church more since we had moved to Colorado. And I think we're sort of looking for community and things. They were certainly.
Right.
And so she went through a little more religious phase than usual, so I think we weren't allowed to watch Smurfs at one point.
Oh my gosh.
Because like they believe it magic crystals or something. I don't know, something she got in her head. But I always appreciated that the G.I. Joe thing wasn't about that, or about guns are bad or whatever. It was about Shipwreck is sexist.
Right.
And she wasn't wrong. I mean, it was a little inappropriate, but yeah. So.
I get it on that front, because when I was a kid, my parents banned me from watching SpongeBob and iCarly in our house. And I asked them, years later, because now I watch it. But I have to make up for lost time. I'm usually like at my friend's house watching it, which is how I got around that rule. But I remember asking my mom, just like, why did you not let me watch SpongeBob like as a kid? And she said like, I got all the jokes, and I didn't understand at that point. But
that's funny.
Yeah, going through later, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's just I was too young. But why don't parents know that it's okay, because those jokes are aimed at them and not at the kids? They go right over the kid's head. So
they definitely went right over my head, and I think it probably did. Yeah, same for you.
Me too with Shipwreck. I thought he was fine. I mean, I recently was watching an episode of Moonlighting, and I was on Tubi or one of those channels, and I had the biggest crush
Mm-hmm.
on what's his name as David Addison,
Oh yes, I
Bruce
get.
Willis.
Mm-hmm.
I had such a crush on him and I wanted to be Sybil Shepherd. And I was watching just a little bit the other day and I was like, wait a minute. I had a crush on this guy. He is fucking irritating. Every word out of his mouth, I wanted to roll my eyes. I was like, wow, I guess Kelly, 13-year-old Kelly has changed, or whatever age I was. I must have been watching it. Did we have reruns of that? I don't know. I can't imagine I was watching it when it first came out. I would have been too young, but
Mm.
I mean, I definitely as a teen thought he was the bee's knees. I just did. I just made myself about 100 years old with that bee's knees there. I thought he was great, and I was so shocked the other day to see that he was a weasel, man. But this is what happens, right? Things don't age the way you think they will. You change without realizing it.
It's true.
Things that at one time seemed fundamental, now you're like, who was that person?
100% agreed on that front. And yeah, my buddy in Malaysia is also asking because he also wanted an excuse to ask me to get to ask you a question. He's like, yeah, are you? He was like, do you want to write more GI Joe related stuff in the future?
I would want to write more G.I. Joe stuff. My schedule is a little crazy right now. I don't know if they want me or if maybe it's just that I left Scarlett in sort of a tough position, and so they haven't figured out how they want to roll her and more of that in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm totally open to it if they want to do it. I really enjoyed doing it.
Okay.
Scarlett, I mean, Scarlett really was one of my first crushes, really,
Mm.
as a character.
Understandable.
So much so that I hated Lady J and CoverGirl and the other women, which is so narrow-minded.
The
But
possession. I get it. I get it.
I was mad. When it's the only girl and she's only gonna show, like, you only get one girl to show up per episode.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's Lady J, it means I'm not gonna see Scarlett. And let's just talk about how that's really what's wrong, is why couldn't they be? I think there's one episode where like all the women are involved. But like, why could there only be one at a time, man? Sucks.
I completely understand it, and yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's one of the reasons it was so important to me to make Jinx a part of the book
Mm-hmm.
and to like really highlight her and like show that really sisterly relationship that they had and how close, and that Scarlett would really do anything to get her back, is because I wanted, again, sisterhood. I wanted to lean in. Why can't we have more than one female character in one of these stories at the same time? Let's not put them in conflict, not directly. And yeah, Jinx is also a great character. I didn't discover her until much later, of course, but fantastic
Jinx
character.
is so much fun to read in the book. I
Yeah.
definitely enjoyed it. Absolutely.
Well, thanks.
Of course. And I think that wraps up another fantabulous conversation with the continuing to win. You're gonna win Eisners every year, Kelly. So I think I just need to like continue to say Eisner Award winning creator Kelly Thompson
Well,
the start of all of these.
it's very nice, but I suspect Denis Camp is gonna wipe the floor with all of us next year, and deservedly so.
He's really good at the writing thing.
He really has. He and Javier doing Martian Manhunter is like mind-blowingly good, but he's also doing really great stuff at Marvel and his creator-owned stuff. Crisis of Assorted Events. I'm butchering the title maybe, but
Assorted Crisis
all,
Events is such an awesome read.
It's all really smart and interesting, and a perspective I think that is way underlooked in comics. So it's exciting to have him in the mix, making waves.
For certain. But thank you again, Kelly, for joining me on this escapade to talk about pop culture, what you're doing, and what you will be doing in the future.